Hi guys, Sergey from Ninovo Custom Jewelry here. We made the best custom engagement rings here in Los Angeles. And today I want to tell the story of creation of this beautiful sapphire engagement ring. And I want to walk you through the process of how we make custom engagement rings here in Ninovo overall. And although this process is quite complicated, by the end of the video you will see that there is multiple points where you can start, that we will guide you through the process, will help you to choose the right design, we'll tell you what's working, what's not. We will talk you through the different metals, gemstones, and we'll answer all of your questions. And also we have tons of materials here on YouTube, on our website, so you can check them out on your own as well. But overall, all you need to do pretty much is contact us and we'll figure out where you're at this point and how to make the right way to the ring of your dream pretty much. Let's start from the very beginning. Where do we start with the design of the engagement ring? We usually start with the general idea overall. And here's actually a couple of different scenarios. First of all, you can choose to do this on your own and make it a complete surprise to your fiance. So in this case, you'll probably better go with a Pinterest board that probably will be provided to you at some point, or you can figure out how to get it. You can also ask her or his friends and family, and then they can help you with that. And there is actually tons of tips of how to do this properly, what kind of strategies you can use, and I'll make a separate video for that because I think I'm becoming professional at this. And also, like in this case, for example, with this sapphire engagement ring, there is an option to make it together, to openly discuss the design, the gemstones, and things like that. You can also start with a list of details. You don't have to start with visual references, as with the snowflake engagement ring that you can find on our YouTube channel. We did not start with visual references. There was nothing like that made before. So we just had a list of things that we want to incorporate in the design. In that case, for example, it was the snowflake itself, because the guys met at the winter time. There was a number 6 because the guys were together for the 6 years at that point. And also we had some cultural references that we want to incorporate in this ring. But again, we didn't have any visual reference because nothing like that was done before. And also at this point, I highly recommend to take a look at your budget. You don't want to overspend, you don't want to go into the credit or things like that. There's tons of spending in front of you as a young family, and probably you don't want to double your budget for the engagement ring over here. I mean, of course it's great for me, but I'm planning on getting lifetime clients, and I don't want you to be upset or regret with overspending on your engagement ring. Next step is the stone. And again, let's come back to this beautiful engagement ring. Over here, at the very beginning, we knew that we want to have the sapphire, but we wasn't sure about the color. We started with a violet color, but we couldn't find the right tone. Turns out some of the colors looks like jelly or something like that. They couldn't quite work. And at some point, my gemologist who is sourcing all the stones, he found these stones and he made a beautiful video with it and I sent it to my client. And the beauty and uniqueness of this stone is that it's changing the color depending how you look at it. It's changing the colors from blue to green. And if you go outside, it will probably be slightly greenish. If you stay inside, it's blue. It's very rare thing to have in a sapphire, and it's just a stone that you cannot miss. I explained it to my client and they agreed with me, and I am really happy that they went with this type of stone. And from the first stage, we knew also that we want this design to be nature inspired. Because there's a few options to go, right, over here. You can go with the Art Deco, you can go with Edvardian and things like that. But over here, we decided that we want to go with a nature-inspired design. And it worked beautifully with our stone. If you're not going with the sapphire, for example, first of all, you need to figure out the type of the stone you want. Do you want the diamond or you want the moissanite? For example, we're doing lots of rings with the moissanite. Or you want to go with the ruby or morganite, or you want to go with the last ring we did with aquamarine, or you want to go with something else, or you're willing to go with the more fragile options. Let's say you make an anniversary engagement ring as like a second or third engagement ring, and you're willing to go with the opals or moonstones. That's an option as well. So over here, you need to determine what types of gem are you going with. And then the beautiful thing these days, you can choose between the lab stone and natural stone. And over here, your choice can be determined by a couple of things. Let's say you know a lot about environmental issues and things like that, and you want to go with the lab stone for sure. That's an option. Or like me, for example, you like to feel the energy of the stone on your finger. You know the story of how sapphires created in nature, you know that they are there for millions of years, and you really want to feel it. Then you go with a natural stone. Or on the opposite side, it can be when you want some types of the stone. Again, let's say you want a sapphire, but your budget is just not there, and but still you want to have a look of the sapphire. Then you go with the lab, because it's usually like 5 times less expensive, and that's a great option. And also over here, you want to make sure that you chose the side stones properly. It's crucial for the hollow engagement rings, for example. And you can see the tons of engagement rings, angry people with the rings from big retailers, where the side stone way more white than the center stone, and this side stones basically highlight the yellowishness of the center stone. And on a CAD model or on a photo, you cannot see this, but in reality, you will see that. So in order not to end up with these types of rings, you want to make sure that the side stones chosen properly and they match in the center stone. That's the very important part. Over here, we didn't have any center stones, so we skipped that stage pretty much. Then after you figure out what direction you want to go with, and you figure out what types of stone you want to use, you probably want to do sketching. And with the sketching, you can be very fast. The turnaround can be very fast. It takes like 10-15 minutes to do the sketch, and probably to figure out ID another couple of hours. And we can send it quickly to the client, and depending on how much time do you have on your hands, we can go through like a couple of sketches a day, or usually we do one sketch a day, because you want to take your time, you want to take a look at it, you want to discuss maybe with your fiance, as in this case, because they were openly about creating this ring together, or you want to discuss it with your friends and figure out what's working or not. So it's usually one sketch per day, and overall we probably go through 3 or 5 sketches throughout the process. Sometimes it gets extreme. Sometimes, like with the snowflake engagement ring, we went through the 15 or so, and it took us only 3 weeks to go through the sketches over there. But again, that's extreme case. Usually we're good with 3 or 5 somewhere there, and we're not charging anything additionally for that. As soon as you commit it with us, we not do any charges on top. That's just distracting. It's not overall pleasant process, because we don't want you to think over here about the money. We want your thoughts to flow, and we want you to find the right design for you. What we did over here, we did exactly that. We had a space for the ideas to flow. We want this design to incorporate lots of tree movements, lots of leaf movements, as you might see probably right now on the video. And over here, we didn't want to think about the comfort aspect of wearing this engagement ring, because we knew we'll figure out this later in 3D modeling. Over here, we want to figure out what is it exactly do we want, how many leaves do we want on each side, what types of overall engraving we want to have, what types of pattern do we want, and things like that. How detailed we want to go, because you want to stay in the middle of like practicality and the look overall. You also want to make sure that it's easy to clean. So there's lots of things that you need to figure out, and usually we're not asking our clients, like we're not putting everything on their shoulders and asking them to make a decision. We're saying like, okay, this things would work, this thing's not going to work. And we sometimes saying like, okay, we want, you kind of said that you want all these things together, but that would look like a Frankenstein engagement ring, so we don't want to do that. You want to do this, this, and this, so it will be balanced and nice looking engagement ring, and you're not gonna regret about it in the future. So overall, we guiding through the process. I would compare it with interior design. Sometimes we have an idea of where we want to live, but we cannot really put it together, so we asking the professional, and they, throughout the talking with us, can figure out what exactly do we want. And sometimes actually when I send in the sketches to my clients, they cannot really explain what is exactly wrong with the sketch and what they want to fix. Well, in this case, and it's my practice, it's very easy to just jump on a Zoom call, and just by the facial expression, just the things like that, you can figure out which way do you want to steer to make your client happy. It's always working for me. Maybe it will work differently for someone else. The other thing I want to point over here, the designer has to know what's going on in a jewelry production process, because you can draw pretty much anything you want, but can you actually make it in metal? Can you actually place your stones in that way? Will it look good? So you have to know what you're doing over here. At the same time, in couple of cases, that was a starting point. We got a couple of sketches from our clients on a napkin pretty much, and they wasn't professional or anything close. They just show us in a very basic way what they want, and we reworked these sketches to the professional sketches, the one you can see right now on the screen. And we asked them, is it what you mean by your sketch? And if they say yes, then we're going forward. Next step is the CAD modeling, 3D modeling. Actually, before we go forward, I want to highlight these 3 things again, and let's call it the first triangle. I just figured it out. And the first triangle, it's kind of your pre-production process. Overall, here you're still not making the ring, but you're figuring out how it's going to look and things like that. And that's a very important process. And when you're going through this, you still can change things around. Because the next 3 steps, the second triangle basically, that's the actual production thing. And over here, it would be much harder to change something. Still, it's possible though. Also, one thing I forgot to mention, with the stones, we're choosing the gold as well. And I have the separate video, I just did it last week, about the different types of gold and the different alloys and things like that. So make sure you check it out. Before we move into next stage, the CAD modeling, I want to talk about a few other things about this engagement ring up close. We mentioned at the very beginning that we chose to go with a nature-inspired style of engagement ring. And actually closer to the end, we decided that it's strong enough and it allows us to get rid of all of the natural lines and do the prongs in a very beautiful natural way. So what we did here, these branches that goes throughout the whole ring goes all the way up over here and making its way into the prongs. So as you can see, the branches from the bottom becoming prongs very naturally. Before that, it was a couple of additional lines that wasn't really look good. They were like, okay, we put the lifts on top of the other engagement ring. And we don't want to have this kind of effect. We want this to be the ring from some sort of interesting story, like it was made in the woods or something like that, just by using the golden magic. That's what we did. Actually, over here, when I turn the ring this way, you can see the left side of the stone is blue and the right side of the stone is green. And that's because on my right, I have the natural light from the window, and on the left, I have the artificial video light, and you can see the difference. And same thing would happen if I will turn the ring. You can see the blue on the left and you can see the green on the right. Same over here, I'm moving. And this is really a magical play of light. I really like it. It's not the type of stone that you look at once and that's pretty much it. You always want to look at this stone in a different lighting situation and in different angles. It's always played differently. And when I went outside to the direct sun and it starts sparkling in a totally different way, I'll do this video. And I hope this video would show you what it looks like. But let's come back to the actual design itself. Also, I mentioned that we draw a few sketches with the leaves, and the leaves were originally sticking out slightly. And we decided to put them kind of all the way down, so when she's going to wear the ring, it's probably not going to fit any of my fingers because it's too small. So it's not stuck into the pieces of clothes or anything like that, or when she will go for her purse or pretty much anything. So we want to make sure that it's very comfortable, and that's why it's actually polished on the side. The other thing why we want to polish, as you can see, it's made gold over here. And the sides of the leaves are polished, and that gives it very nice volume when you're looking on it. Because usually in the nature, if you look at the leaves in the nature, they're usually made from the top and they kind of glossy on the sides. It's kind of an interesting thing to notice, but when you have a chance to notice that, just take a look at it. The other thing I'm very, very proud, and hope my camera can show it as well, is the details on the leaves. That's hours and hours in each leaf over here, and you can see all the little lines here and there on all of them on each side. That's really incredible. That's the type of thing that makes you fall in love with the ring like more and more. And I like actually this idea, like step-by-step appreciation process. I found out about it in Germany design books, that they do complicated design so you appreciate things in a different level. Meaning, when you actually receive this ring, you just like the way it looks. You just appreciate the design and everything. But when you start looking at it very closely, you start noticing the leaves, you start noticing the branches and things like that. And after you wear it for quite a while, you start noticing the third level. The little details on the lifts over here, that the prongs goes from the branches over here, and that the stone itself changing the colors and things like that. So it's in this multiple level of appreciation gives you way more connection with the actual piece. But anyway, let's keep going with overall process. The next step was the CAD modeling, the 3D modeling. And over here, we're making the 3D model that is absolutely the same to your final ring. And the way you're going to receive it, it's you're going to have the 3 different looks from the side, from the top, and from the bottom. And you're also going to have the actual 3D model that you can turn around in your browser, and you can zoom in, zoom out. You can see the proportions of the actual ring. Also, we do 3D visualizations, the one that you can see right now on the screen. And you can see that it's very, very close to the final ring. Probably the biggest difference is that on the 3D model, it's glossy yellow gold, and over here it's matte rose gold. And that's because our clients changed their mind on a 5th final stage. But again, it's going to look very, very close, and we want you to make sure that everything is right before we send it to the production. Another reason why we want to do this is because we often work with very complicated designs, and sometimes with this type of designs you cannot really resize the ring. It's so complicated that you'll have to do basically your shank all over again. Shank, that's the this round part of the ring. So in this case, we go even further and we do SLA 3D model. We're printing SLA print. What it is, it's a very high resolution 3D print in 1:1 scale. And you can put this ring on your finger and figure out if it's your size, if it's exactly your size, if it's comfortable. You can figure out the proportion, is it exactly what you want, and things like that. We do not charge anything additionally for that. We just want to make sure in the complicated cases that it's exactly what the client wants before we're going into the production. We would rather spend a little bit more over here than do this ring all over again in gold. So it totally makes sense right over here. So after we did the 3D model, as I said, we went into production. Overall about the production, I can make a separate video for like 10-15 minutes explaining all of the technical details, what do we do with the alloys and things like that. But probably that's not the reason why you're here. So I want to highlight just a few things. First of all our rings handmade. And they handmade by one person from the beginning to the end. So one person is responsible for each piece. What does it mean for you? It's mean the highest quality, because if it's made, let's say, in a huge production, No one pretty much responsible for anything over there. But over here, it's like a coach built furniture or anything like that. You can bring lots of comparison. The main idea is that it's just a completely different level of production. Second thing is all our gold is recycled. We very strict on that. All our gold is recycled and all our gems are ethically sourced. We want to make sure on that. We do not purchase the stones without the certificate. We do not purchase the stone that goes from somewhere we don't really know. So we very strict on that. We have very high standards over here. And because of that, because of the production processes, because of the high quality, we are able to give the lifetime warranty for the ring. Of course, things can happen. You can hit the ring and lose the stone, for example. But in that case, we recommend to do the insurance for the ring so we can replace the stone if everything happened. But whatever is going on, you have the lifetime warranty, and whatever happened with the ring, we can always fix it for you. That's the important thing. And the next stage, and that's the final stage, that's the delivery. And that's delivery, it's not just the shipping. Your ring would come in a custom box made specifically for this engagement ring. You will get all the paperwork, and by the paperwork, I mean, first of all, the certificate for the stone. Second, the appraisal that you need to insure your ring in your insurance company or to put it on your home insurance. And again, I'll do the separate video on that to help you with that. And there is also a certificate of authenticity that basically tells that this ring made out of 18 karat rose gold, that its weight this and this, that it's made by hand, and that it's cost that much. So again, if you want to go to the insurance company and insure it, you can do that. Overall, in general, if the ring costs like less than $5,000, usually all you need is the receipt. But in my personal opinion, you want to have these documents because in other case, you will have to pay additional money for the appraisal. You don't want to spend anything additional. Another important thing in the delivery process, we want to make sure it fits. And there's different stories with the rings. Sometimes guys telling us that, yes, I figured out her size. That's for sure size 6. Let's do this. Let's make it. And when deliver the ring, and her size is 4. So 2 sizes off. For that, we have free resizing. We know things happen. The only exception is, it's not kind of an exception, we're still going to do the resize. With these types of rings, with the complicated patterns or the complicated designs, we talk about it, we remind about it pretty much in every email that your ring is complicated. Let's make sure that this is her ring. We're going to send you the sizer. You want to put it on your finger, you want to walk with it through the day, you want to make sure that this is your exact size. And after that, we're going into the production again. And let's summarize very quickly. So for this blue-green sapphire engagement ring, the process were pretty much the way I draw it. But again, as I mentioned before, you don't really have to start, you don't have a set point. You can start with the Pinterest board or the family advice. You can start with the types of the stone. You can start with sketching. There is no set process over here. I would say all you need to do is to contact us and we will figure out what is the best way for you. Again, it looked complicated, but it's not like we teaching you to swim by just throwing you in the water. We will guide you through the process step by step, and we have lots of materials pretty much in the same, put it in the same way, so it's easy to digest it and it's easy to figure out. In terms of the timeline, you might look at this process and think like, oh, this might take a very long time. Let's say this is our timeline, right? And usually from the very beginning, and let's say it's your first email right over here, and to the end, to the point where you receive the engagement ring, it usually takes about 8 weeks or so. In this specific case, with this Sapphire engagement ring, we went through lots of sketches. We sourced the stone for a very long time. We changed our mind on the stone a couple of times. We changed our mind on CAD models. We did a couple of them. So I think overall it was about 12 weeks or something like that. But also I have to point that the client at the very beginning, when I asked him what is your deadline for the engagement ring, he said very clearly that whatever it takes to make a beautiful piece. So he didn't have any timelines or anything like that. And that's what we love to work with. But again, it's a real life, so we have to be quick. And again, it usually takes about 8 weeks. With a very complicated design, as I keep referring to the engagement, to the snowflake engagement ring, because that's probably the hardest one we did so far, that might take about 3 months or so. But that's max. That's from the beginning to the end. And again, that's a very realistic timeline. And it's not like we want to tell you that we will be able to do this in 8 weeks and then keep postponing this and actually deliver it to you in like 10 or 11. We're giving you the realistic timeline because we want the process to be pleasant and we don't want you to nervous and look at the tracking instead of just waiting for your beautiful ring when it should come. If you have the very set timeline, of course, we're going to work with it. Let's say it's a very common thing, actually. Let's say you want to propose on your New Year Eve and you have 6 weeks in front of you. Well, in this case, at the very beginning, I will clearly explain you what to do to get quick on everything, and we will be able to fit in that. And at the same time, if you're saying like, oh, I really want to propose as soon as possible, and by that you mean like 10 days, we usually, in this case, we usually go with the replacement ring, which has given you the engagement ring that you can propose with. And then together we start working on a custom piece, because the custom pieces takes time and you cannot really make them in like 10 weeks. 10 days or so. And I think that's it about overall process of how we make custom engagement rings here at Nina Vova. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer. And I have to say that each and every question gives me more energy to create videos like that. And they are quite complicated, so please do have a question. Like this video, subscribe if you like what you see, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.